Hi and welcome to Kragle's Den. Today we're going to be looking at these two Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures from NECA, based on the classic video game Turtles in Time. For those of you who don't know, Turtles in Time was a side-scrolling beat-em-up released in arcades in 1991. Based on the popular cartoon series, the game was a massive hit, praised for its graphics, music and gameplay. It was later ported to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1992, and even received a 3D remake in 2009, Turtles in Time Reshelled. The two figures we have here are the Turtles' arch enemy and nemesis, Shredder. Fun fact for you, in the original cartoon series from the late 80s and early 90s, the character was actually voiced by Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and Michelangelo, my personal favourite of the four brothers. The packaging on these is really cool. As well as that classic logo from the cartoon on the front, the artwork is heavily inspired by the art you would have seen on the original arcade cabinets for this game. On the sides of the box they've even included some pictures based on the levels from the game, as well as the infamous freaky looking depictions of the four turtles that used to be on those old arcade machines. And on the back you have a glamour shot of the figure itself against a backdrop based on one of the game's levels, and some pictures of the other figures in this wave. All in all, very nice. Now let's crack these open and take a look at the figures themselves. So here they both are out of their boxes. Another nice thing worth mentioning with the packaging for these is that you can very easily remove these figures and leave their boxes completely intact. It might seem insignificant, but for collectors like me that like to keep everything mint with its original packaging, but still want to play around a bit and enjoy these figures, I think it's an instant win. Both figures are painted in this pixelated video game style, and the colours are also a little different to what you might expect if these were straight up just based on the cartoon. For example, Shredder's looking a lot more pink, and Mikey's sporting yellow rather than his usual orange. It's almost like the saturation has been dialed up a notch too far, and it really does an excellent job in capturing that 16-bit aesthetic. This was my first time getting any of the Turtles range from NECA, so I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. I had read that sometimes the joints could be a little stiff out of the box and would need a little coaxing, but that's pretty common with higher end figures like these. In the past, I've been able to just wiggle and gently move the joints back and forth until they move freely, but with Mikey here, I really needed to put in a lot more work. And even now they don't feel entirely articulate. There were times when I was worried that something was going to snap or break off, which is the last thing you want after dropping the kind of coinage these fellas retail for. There's a few areas where a softer, more rubbery material are used alongside the harder plastic of the rest of the figure, like his undershell, mask and belt. I think they work great. Appearance-wise, they're pretty indistinguishable from the hard plastic, but they allow for more freedom of movement and prevent parts breaking off. The paint job on this fella is very well done. Sculpting wise, they've clearly drawn from the cartoon series, leaving the pattern of the paintwork to convey the video game motif, and it absolutely works. Just check out how they've given depth and shading here with block squares, just how a 16-bit sprite might look. Mikey also comes with a couple of alternate hand pieces for different uses or poses. I will say, whilst these do have a hinge joint at the wrist attachment, it's probably best that you get that in the position you want before you add it to the arm, as they can be a little tricky to move once on. One thing I absolutely love is this painted translucent disc attachment Mikey has. It just fixes onto the end of one of these handle pieces, and the idea is that it gives the appearance of him spinning his nunchucks. Really very cool. Mikey also comes with this large sewer surfing hoverboard accessory, and I was actually a little taken aback by the size of this thing. Thinking back to its appearance in the game, its scale is spot on, but so often with accessories like these we get cheated in terms of sizing, so it's rather refreshing. The bottoms of Mikey's feet have these hexagonal holes in the heel that you can then use with the single stud on the board. You also get a clear stand with a ball joint on top, so that you can pose this however you like. Although I will say, it can take a little bit of fiddling around to get the balance just right. But you really can create some dynamic posing. Then we have Shredder. And he really is a great looking figure. Although I'm still not 100% sold on this cloth piece. For some reason, I had it in my head that this was going to be a rubbery plastic piece. It kinda jars with the 16-bit look of the figure. And it might just be mine, but some of the edges look a little frayed and snagged. In the game, Shredder actually ditches his cape in his boss battle intro animation, but I haven't yet figured out an easy way of removing this, besides just taking a pair of scissors to it and cutting it off. You can see I've got him equipped with this really cool Power Blast piece, that's moulded in the shape of an outstretched hand. This is of course one of Shredder's special attacks in the game, and I just love this thing. It has this kind of onion layer effect to it that gives it an almost Tron feel. I actually had the opposite problem with this figure than I did with Mikey, in that out of the box some of his joints felt too loose. Like, I'm not worried about any of his limbs falling off, but some of the points of articulation on this fella just don't have the friction to hold their poses. Shredder also comes with these posable toes. Huh, I guess that's why they call it the foot. Shredder also uses a lot more of that softer rubbery material for literally all of his blade covered armour, which is good because it means they're not easily going to snap and break off. But I will say the paint job on this one is less than stellar. The pixelated design is great, but it's let down by some bad scuffs like the one on his leg here. This figure is brand new out of the box, yet it kinda looks like it's been played with already. Bit disappointing considering the premium price tag attached to this figure. You'd really expect a lot better quality control. Our villain's main weapon of choice is this totally not a lightsaber laser sword, and I really like this piece. The hilt is excellent with some block highlights down the side, but I also love the very subtle shift in colour down the blade. Beautiful. As an extra accessory, you also get this other Power Blast piece, which is kinda like when Shredder's building up a fireball to shoot out at the Turtles. So overall, I think these are some great looking figures. Like most 80s and 90s kids, the Turtles were a massive part of my childhood. I had dozens of the original toys based on the cartoon show and the live action movies, and Turtles in Time was a game I adored spending hours playing, so these figures really struck a nostalgic chord with me. Quality wise, for the most part, they're everything you'd expect from an adult collectible action figure. But Shredder, I think if this was a figure that wasn't based on a video game, where all the colours are block squares, it wouldn't look so bad. But that scuff on his leg just kills me every time I see it. He really does look and feel like a used figure, and that sucks. I still think I'd recommend these figures to any Turtle fan, despite the issues with quality control. It wouldn't surprise me if I was just unlucky and got the one dud out of 1,000. I'm already scoping out what other Turtles figures NECA have to tempt me. I might get a couple more from Turtles in Time, or maybe I'll get some based purely off the 90s cartoon. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe button, and together we'll discover what's inside Kragle's den.